For decades, experts believed only a handful of nations could build technology like this. Then one country quietly proved them wrong. What happened next surprised governments, shocked competitors, and completely changed the future of the global chip industry.
These tiny processors now power artificial intelligence, modern weapons, cloud computing, and almost every technology shaping our future.
Without advanced chips, the modern world simply stops. Every nation knows it. Every technology depends on them. For years, one belief remained almost unquestioned. China could never build the world's most advanced chips on its own. Building one advanced chip demands thousands of scientific breakthroughs working together with almost unimaginable precision. For decades, only a tiny group of companies possessed the knowledge, equipment, and experience needed to manufacture these extraordinary processors. Many engineers believed catching up would require decades. Some believed it might never happen at all. The world's most advanced semiconductor supply chain depended on technologies controlled by remarkably few companies and remarkably few countries.
The industry seemed settled. Everyone knew who would build tomorrow's most powerful chips and who would always remain behind.
Then, almost overnight, a single political decision exposed how fragile that entire system really was.
In 2019, new American restrictions reached far beyond one company. They challenged an entire technology strategy that China had relied upon for years.
Suddenly, access to critical software, advanced chips, and manufacturing technology could no longer be taken for granted. One company found itself standing at the center of that storm. Its name was Huawei. Losing access to familiar technology could have ended Huawei's global ambitions. Instead, it forced the company to attempt something almost nobody believed was possible.
Inside Huawei, the conversation quickly changed. Survival was no longer enough. They needed complete technological independence.
That decision demanded rebuilding technologies most companies spend decades creating, starting almost entirely from scratch.
Thousands of engineers quietly began one of the most ambitious technology projects of the modern era, hidden almost completely from public view. The goal reached far beyond replacing Android. It meant building an entire technology ecosystem that nobody else could switch off. Outside, the world assumed Huawei was struggling to survive. Inside these buildings, engineers were quietly preparing something entirely different. The mission had grown far beyond replacing software. China now faced an even greater challenge: building the technology powering everything. Unlike software, advanced chips cannot simply be written. They must be manufactured with astonishing accuracy measured in billionths of a meter. Instead of solving one problem, engineers chose the hardest path imaginable. They rebuilt nearly the entire technology stack together. Years passed without dramatic announcements. Behind closed doors, thousands of engineers kept building while the outside world assumed they had already fallen behind. 5 years disappeared inside laboratories, where progress was measured quietly through engineering, not headlines or product launches. Piece by piece, software that once depended on foreign technology slowly became something entirely their own. But software alone was never enough. Real independence required processors capable of competing on the world's biggest stage. Every production run answered the same question the world kept asking: was this really possible without the technology everyone believed was essential?
When the first results finally appeared, even longtime skeptics quietly admitted they had underestimated what years of determined engineering could accomplish.
What began as a desperate response to restrictions had evolved into something far larger: a blueprint for tech.
In May 2019, a decision made thousands of miles away instantly changed the future of one of China's largest technology companies. Huawei's placement on the Entity List restricted American companies from supplying critical technology without special government approval.
Within hours, the announcement dominated headlines because its consequences extended far beyond one company's future.
Google suspended key business relationships with Huawei, threatening access to services millions of international smartphone users depended upon every day. Outside China, uncertainty spread quickly as buyers questioned the future of Huawei's smartphones and software support.
The smartphone business grabbed headlines, but an even larger challenge was quietly emerging behind the scenes. Restrictions surrounding advanced processors created uncertainty for future laptops that relied heavily on American chip technology. Access to leading processors could no longer be taken for granted, forcing long-term planning to change almost overnight.
Executives faced an uncomfortable conclusion. Waiting for restrictions to disappear was no longer a realistic strategy. Instead of asking how to survive the sanctions, Huawei began asking a far more ambitious question. What if dependence ended forever? The solution would not arrive through negotiations. It would demand rebuilding technologies that had taken the global industry decades to perfect.
The challenge extended beyond designing chips. Manufacturing them required some of the world's most sophisticated scientific equipment.
Universities, research institutes, and technology companies quietly accelerated projects that had previously seemed far less urgent. Progress depended upon mastering countless scientific details that ordinary consumers would never notice inside finished devices.
Investment increased dramatically because semiconductor independence had become both an economic priority and a national strategic objective.
Every improvement represented another step toward reducing dependence on technologies that could no longer be guaranteed.
Hardware alone would never solve the problem. Independent processors also required software capable of supporting an entire digital ecosystem.
Chip development and operating system development quietly advanced together, each strengthening the other over time.
Rather than searching for quick victories, the strategy focused on patient engineering designed to produce lasting technological independence.
The world saw restrictions. Inside countless laboratories, engineers saw something entirely different.
Years of preparation were finally approaching their defining moment. The world simply had no idea how much progress had already been made.
Breakthroughs in semiconductor manufacturing never arrive all at once. They emerge through thousands of precise improvements repeated without failure.
Every successful production cycle brought engineers one step closer to reducing the technological gap many experts believed could never be closed. The challenge demanded extraordinary patience, because even microscopic imperfections could ruin an entire silicon wafer. By now, countless laboratories, universities, and manufacturers were contributing to one of the largest engineering efforts in modern industrial history. Then the first signs of meaningful progress began appearing, not through headlines, but through engineering results verified inside secure laboratories. Prototype after prototype demonstrated steady improvements, giving researchers confidence that years of work were finally beginning to pay off.
Confidence slowly replaced uncertainty as long-term investment began producing measurable technological advances across multiple research programs.
Outside observers gradually noticed subtle changes, although few yet understood their broader significance for the global technology industry.
The impossible had not been fully achieved yet. But for the first time, many experts quietly admitted it no longer looked impossible. Then came the moment when years of silent engineering finally stepped beyond laboratory walls and into public view.
For the engineers involved, every successful prototype represented thousands of invisible failures overcome through persistence rather than publicity. When Huawei introduced its newest flagship devices, attention quickly shifted from the products themselves to the remarkable chips powering them.
Industry analysts immediately began asking one question: how had Huawei produced processors many believed were no longer within reach?
Independent researchers worked quickly to understand the technology hidden beneath the polished exterior of the new hardware.
Every technical detail mattered, because the results could reshape assumptions that had guided the semiconductor industry for years.
Investors, governments, and competitors all recognized that this story reached far beyond a single smartphone launch.
Performance alone did not answer every question, but it demonstrated unmistakable progress achieved under extraordinary constraints. Years of investment had produced something more valuable than headlines. They had restored confidence that difficult engineering goals could still be achieved. The conversation was no longer about whether China would keep trying. The real question had quietly become how far this transformation could ultimately go. Success inside laboratories was only the beginning. The real challenge was proving those breakthroughs could reshape an entire technology industry. The semiconductor business rewards consistency, not isolated victories. Every breakthrough must eventually survive the pressures of mass production. Powerful chips influence far more than smartphones. They quietly drive artificial intelligence, healthcare, transportation, and the digital economy itself.
As artificial intelligence expanded, demand for advanced processors accelerated faster than almost anyone had predicted.
Every nation suddenly realized that future economic growth would increasingly depend upon reliable access to advanced computing power. Competition was no longer measured only by speed. Manufacturing capability had become just as strategically important as processor performance. The global technology race gradually transformed into a contest of engineering talent, research investment, and long-term patience.
Companies everywhere began rethinking supply chains that had remained largely unchanged for decades. The conversation had expanded beyond business competition. Semiconductor technology was now shaping national strategy around the world.
One breakthrough had quietly become something much larger, the beginning of a new chapter in the global race for technological leadership. By now, the world's attention had shifted from one company's survival to an entirely different question. Could this model be repeated elsewhere?
Several countries quietly began studying the same lesson. Dependence feels comfortable until access suddenly disappears.
Around the world, governments accelerated domestic chip programs, hoping to strengthen resilience before another disruption arrived.
Building advanced chips remained extraordinarily difficult, but the belief that only a few nations could ever succeed had begun to weaken.
Competition expanded beyond individual companies. Entire industrial ecosystems were now racing to secure their technological future. Artificial intelligence intensified the race, because every breakthrough demanded even greater computing power than the generation before.
Semiconductors had quietly become the foundation, supporting nearly every industry shaping the modern world.
The smallest improvements in manufacturing efficiency could determine billions of dollars and years of competitive advantage. Technology leadership was no longer measured only by innovation. It increasingly depended on resilient manufacturing and reliable supply chains.
One engineering challenge had quietly evolved into a worldwide competition that may define the next generation of technological leadership.
For decades, computing power measured technological progress. Artificial intelligence has now multiplied that demand.
Every breakthrough in artificial intelligence depends upon enormous numbers of advanced chips working together without interruption.
The race for semiconductor leadership is no longer about faster computers. It now influences healthcare, manufacturing, defense, and scientific discovery.
Designing smaller, faster, and more efficient processors has become one of the greatest engineering challenges of our time.
Every major economy now understands that semiconductor manufacturing represents both economic strength and long-term national resilience.
The smallest piece of silicon can quietly determine the performance of systems serving millions of people every single day. Innovation rarely belongs to one laboratory. It grows through years of shared research, competition, and relentless engineering. The future semiconductor industry will likely be shaped by cooperation in some places and competition in many others.
What began as a dispute over technology has evolved into one of the defining industrial competitions of the 21st century.
The impossible was never achieved in a single breakthrough. It emerged through years of patience, persistence, and engineering.
Even today, no country controls every step of semiconductor manufacturing. The industry remains deeply interconnected despite growing competition.
Success depends on extraordinary precision, because a flaw invisible to the human eye can destroy an entire production cycle. No breakthrough happens overnight. Every technological leap rests upon years of patient research, experimentation, and countless engineering setbacks.
Modern chip factories represent some of the most sophisticated manufacturing environments humanity has ever created. As artificial intelligence expands, demand for advanced processors continues growing faster than global manufacturing capacity. Tomorrow's processors are already being designed years before consumers ever hold the devices they will eventually power. The semiconductor race now reaches far beyond consumer electronics into nearly every frontier of scientific and industrial innovation.
Leadership is no longer measured by one successful product. It depends on sustaining innovation year after year.
Around the world, nations continue investing heavily because advanced chips increasingly define both economic opportunity and strategic security. The race that began with tiny pieces of silicon has quietly become one of the defining stories of the modern world.
Years of determined engineering had transformed an impossible ambition into a technology the entire industry could no longer ignore. The greatest achievement was not one successful chip. It was proving continuous progress could survive extraordinary pressure. Every laboratory contributed one small piece to a much larger transformation that no single breakthrough could explain alone. The value of advanced chips now extends far beyond electronics, reaching almost every industry shaping humanity's future. Modern civilization increasingly depends upon invisible computing infrastructure that few people ever stop to consider.
Across the world, governments continue investing because technological resilience has become as important as technological innovation itself.
Tomorrow's discoveries will likely emerge from thousands of engineers solving difficult problems together across many different countries.
Every generation of chips represents years of invisible engineering compressed into a device small enough to fit inside your hand.
The next chapter of technology will belong to those capable of combining scientific ambition with extraordinary patience. The impossible was never conquered in one dramatic moment. It was achieved through countless quiet victories that slowly changed the world's expectations. The greatest technology revolutions rarely announce themselves. They quietly reshape the world while most people are still looking somewhere else. Each successful wafer represents millions of perfectly manufactured transistors working together with astonishing precision and almost unimaginable reliability. Every breakthrough built upon these tiny processors quietly expands what humanity believes technology can accomplish next.
The competition never truly ends, because every new achievement immediately becomes the starting point for the next generation. Tomorrow's discoveries will depend just as much on education, research, and collaboration as on factories themselves.
Inside every processor lives decades of scientific progress, compressed into something smaller than your fingertip. The future chip race will be shaped not only by machines, but by the imagination of the engineers creating them. Technology has entered an era where resilience, innovation, and independence increasingly matter just as much as raw performance.
One tiny piece of silicon now influences industries that touch nearly every aspect of modern civilization.
The impossible was never defeated by one invention alone. It was overcome through years of relentless determination and extraordinary engineering.
Looking ahead, the semiconductor race is no longer about catching up. It is about defining who leads the next technological era.
Every new generation of chips demands breakthroughs in physics, materials science, manufacturing and software, working together as one.
Tomorrow's greatest innovations will depend upon computing power that today still exists only inside research laboratories. The factories building tomorrow's processors are already pushing engineering closer to the physical limits of matter itself.
Innovation has become a global effort, where every breakthrough inspires new competitions somewhere else in the world. These processors are quietly becoming the foundation beneath artificial intelligence, scientific discovery, and future industries still being imagined. What began as one country's determination ultimately became a story about resilience, innovation, and the changing balance of global technology. History often remembers the finished product, while forgetting the decades of invisible engineering required to create it. Sometimes the smallest object inside a machine carries the greatest influence over the future of the world.
Long after headlines disappear, the machines keep running, the engineers keep improving, and the race quietly continues.
Technology history rarely follows a straight path. Every breakthrough creates new competition, new questions, and entirely new possibilities. The smallest pieces of silicon now influence billions of lives, often without anyone noticing the extraordinary engineering hidden inside. What once seemed impossible became possible because thousands of engineers refused to accept that today's limits would remain forever.
Long after offices close and headlines fade, the next generation of technology continues taking shape behind laboratory doors.
The race for technological leadership is far from over. In many ways, it has only just begun.
Every chapter in technology history reminds us that today's impossible breakthrough often becomes tomorrow's ordinary reality. Whether this transformation ultimately reshapes the world or not, its impact on global technology has already become impossible to ignore. History will decide where this journey ultimately leads, but the next chapter is already being written inside laboratories around the world. But building powerful chips is only the beginning. Next, we'll uncover how one company quietly became so influential that legend is. If this story changed the way you see technology, subscribe for more premium documentaries.